Okay, this is serious, and this relates to last night's debate. We already talked about the debate performance. We talked about Mike Bloomberg getting eaten alive, clearly didn't make his billions debating, that's for sure. We talked about the very clear divisions between the progressives and the centrists during last night's debate. But we have to talk about our democracy. When we talk about our system of democracy in the United States, we will often point out the flaws of the Electoral College system, where Republican presidents have frequently lost the popular vote. More people voted for their opponent, but yet they became president of the United States. 2016 and Donald Trump is an example. This happened with George W. Bush. We've talked about this before. A similar dynamic exists in the Democratic nomination process, wherein you can have a plurality of pledged delegates going into the Democratic National Convention, more delegates than anybody else, but you can end up not being the nominee when superdelegates, typically party insiders and elected officials, get to vote on, this time, in the second round of DNC voting. This came up at last night's debate. There was one person on the stage who said, I believe that whoever has the most delegates should be the nominee. That was Bernie Sanders. Every other candidate said, we should follow the system. We should follow the rules of the DNC. Take a look at this video.
And I want to ask all of you this simple question. There's a very good chance none of you are going to have enough delegates to the Democratic National Convention to clinch this nomination. Okay? If that happens, I want all of your opinions on this. Should the person with the most delegates at the end of this primary season be the nominee, even if they are short of a majority? Senator Sanders, I'm going to let you go last here because I know your view on this. So instead, I will start with you, Mayor Bloomberg.
Whatever the rules of the Democratic Party are, they should be followed. And if they have a process, which I believe they do,
I'm trying to do
so
this,
that
yes or no,
everybody else,
fast.
everybody can.
So you want the convention to work its will?
Yes.
Senator Warren.
But a convention working its will means that people have the delegates that are pledged to them, and they keep those delegates until you come to the convention. All of the people.
All righty. Vice President Biden?
Play by the rules.
Yes or no? Leading person with the delegates, should they be the nominee or not?
No, let the process work its way out.
Mayor Buttigieg?
Not necessarily. Not to listen.
Senator Klobuchar?
Let the process work.
Senator Sanders?
Well, the process includes 500 superdelegates on the second ballot. So I think that the will of the people should prevail. Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Most votes should become the nominee.
5 noes and a yes.
This is not a trivial issue, not only because it goes to the core of what does it mean to reflect the will of the people, but this is not a trivial issue because this is increasingly likely to be the scenario. We already know that if Bernie keeps getting 25 or 30% of the vote in primaries, he likely will not have 50% of the delegates. The way the math works, you can get 50% of the delegates without 50% of the vote. We did this yesterday. If you are in the 35 to 38-ish range percent of the vote, depending on how many viable candidates there are, that is enough to get 50% of the delegates. But if Bernie stays around 28 to 31, it's very likely he won't get 1,991 delegates. Case in point, the 538.com estimate right now says that the most likely scenario is one in which nobody gets to 50% plus one of the delegates. There's a 40% probability of that. Bernie getting 50% plus one has a 37% probability. No other scenario gets past 11%. Now, the DNC increasingly knows this. The candidates on the stage increasingly know this. And this is the strategy to deny Bernie the nomination. So what every candidate on that stage is saying is, I don't think that if you enter the convention with the most delegates, you should be the nominee. They are saying, no matter who gets the most delegates, superdelegates should have their say, and the DNC's completely flawed process is what gets to decide. And by the way, what they're also sort of saying is, and I hope you'll pick me when that time comes. Bernie is saying the will of the people should determine who the nominee is. It's very simple. Nobody else is saying that on the stage. And what this certainly reveals is that the candidates themselves are all but conceding Bernie will get the most delegates, but it's a bold-faced attempt to try to sort of cross their fingers, say, I stand by the system, I'm in line, and hope that the DNC will pick them to be the nominees when Bernie fails to get to 1,991 delegates. Now, I've been consistent on this from day one. This is not about any individual candidate's policy. I don't think we should have an electoral college system nationally. And I don't think we should have a delegate system for the nomination that includes superdelegates at any point in time. Now, at the national level, we can get around the electoral college without a big constitutional amendment through something called the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. And the way that works is, if enough states say, we will give our electors to whoever wins the popular vote, if enough states such that their total number of electoral votes totals 270, without changing the Constitution, you have a de facto national popular vote. We know the path to that nationally. For the DNC system to change, the DNC needs to agree to change it. Why would they do that when this is how they retain some degree of control over who the nominee is, regardless of the will of the people? It's an uphill battle for sure. This was a very telling moment from last night's debate, and one that, without a doubt, is going to be consequential in terms of who ultimately is the nominee, and something we're going to be watching very closely in terms of numbers as the delegates start to be apportioned on the basis of voting. Let's take a quick break. Make sure you're following The David Pakman Show on Instagram at David Pakman Show. If you watch The David Pakman Show, you should check out a YouTube channel we're partnering with called Upflip. Click the link right underneath this video. It'll take you to their channel. While you're there, make sure to subscribe and click that bell for notifications. Upflip is a channel perfect for anyone like me who's fascinated with small businesses and entrepreneurs and what makes them tick. And every Wednesday, Upflip uploads a new video where they interview an entrepreneur. They give you an inside look at how the business works, what makes the business successful, what a day in their shoes is really like. If you enjoy shows like Shark Tank, I think you'll really like this channel. And again, the channel is called Upflip. They're friends of The David Pakman Show. I'd love it if people in my audience subscribe to their channel, click the bell so that you get updates about their videos. And I've put a link right below that will take you directly to their YouTube channel. Check it out.